This is one of the last pictures I ever had taken with Grandpa. I cherish that picture. I was home for Indonesia.
I love that picture.
From Indonesia.
I have that too.
It was hard to leave him that last time. But you know what Dad did? He didn't want me to go. He said, he said, I don't want you to go, but I would never, if you feel God is calling you, I will never stand in the way of the Lord. That's what he said. And after we were gone, I remember looking out the window the first night I arrived in Indonesia. It was dark, and I was staying with friends there. Looked out, and there was these tall palm trees, you know, different climb, different place halfway around the world. And my heart was so lonely. I thought, oh, my parents are way across the ocean, you know. And so I suppose this kind of showed through in some of my letters, I don't know. But Grandpa would write to me faithfully. Now, Grandpa couldn't spell. He spelled phonetically. So you could understand every word he wrote because he was a phonetic speller, you know. But letters, they came regularly. He was my encouragement. And once he said, near the beginning, when I told him I was just a little homesick, I tried not to tell him how much, but he said, well, honey, homesickness is, it can be uncomfortable, but you cheer up. It's not fatal, and you'll manage. You'll get through it. So instead of sitting there worrying about it and grieving about it, he encouraged it. And even at the end of his life, you know, when he was so sick, Grandma would get him a board, and he would sit with that board and keep on writing me those letters. I have them. I've got them all somewhere. And this is the family of Larry and Mary. Now, let's see. Yes, I think just about everybody's there. Now, we were home on furlough, and we were all visiting together. This is Trish, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's cute. There's Carrie back there. Somewhere's Carrie.
I didn't remember that picture.
It's Cheryl. Where's Daryl? Is he in there, or was he taking the picture? Yeah, he's Daryl. There's Daryl. Marcia and Karen and Larry, I think. There's Bob from the Navy. There's one of my favorites of Walt, and I love that picture of Larry. That's when he was at Andrews.
On the river. By the river.
St. Joe River.
St. Joe River. This was Daddy. In his later years, you'd see him sitting in that chair, wouldn't you? What did I write about that? At home in Rock Island, Illinois, Grandma and Grandpa Croxton. Dad with his record player. He loved music. His favorites were symphony, hymns, and light classical. He wasn't much for pop music, but he loved symphony music, he loved light classical, and he loved the old hymns. This was the gym where Dad worked. He worked in his later years. He took care of the tracks, prepared for the big games, regulated the chemicals in the swimming pool. This is Cheryl, at Grandpa and Grandma and Cheryl. She was a cute baby.
Who told me the story about Grandpa cleaning up in the gym one day, and some of the basketball jocks were playing basketball, and the basketball got away from him, and he was sweeping at half court, and he threw the ball from half court, and it went swish.
Into the
I tried to get him to do it again, but he wouldn't.
He wouldn't, and they had those guys making him go up the rope and down and timing him.
This was students. They were making the students do that, and Dad was a janitor. Probably at that time he still had his fingers. Maybe he still had his fingers, but he was walking by, you know, just going about his business, and Vince was trying to get those guys to do that faster, you know. And as he saw Charlie, he said, "Charlie, you come here." So Dad went over there.
Who's Vince?
Vince was the coach. Good friend of ours. He came to Grandpa's. He came to Grandpa's funeral. He loved Grandpa. And boy, Dad shinnied up that rope and down before you could say Jack Robinson.
Vince just asked him to do it then?
Yeah. You let your legs dangle, you know. You go up and down. But he had strong arms. Yeah. And he was extremely creative. He was afraid of heights. He was afraid of heights, and he was afraid of water. So he had to manage the swimming pool. He had to drag the thing with you know, and tend the chemicals all by himself. If he'd have fallen in, he'd have drowned probably. But he did a good job of that. And then he had to get way up on the rafters, way up in that high gymnasium, and clean those rafters. Dad made himself a chair. Made himself a chair on a... He was scared of some things, but first of all, he was a man of responsibility. There's no way he would have copped out of that, you know. So he made himself a track up
trolley.
there, a trolley thing with a little chair, and he got in that chair, moved along, and cleaned that thing. He could, if he needed it, he could make it. Isn't that right, you guys?
Yeah.
If he needed it, he could make it. There he is with Sandra, and there he is with shoveling snow. Here he is in his big chair. See, in his later years, he was on oxygen, and he had to do a lot of resting because he had silicosis, the hardened clay dust in his lungs. In his garden there, I think. There he is with his horses. This came out in the Rock Island Argus. He was working on it one day. He had that machine down at the gym. They let him keep it down there, and then on his off days he would go down there and carve on his horses. One day he was turning on a machine. He was a very careful man, but something went wrong. He got his fingers in that saw. He walked into Vince's, Beckstrom, I think was the one who was there.
He was Beckstrom.
Yeah, walked into his office and he says, well, Beck, it got me. And the guy's, his stomach just went like that. He says, oh, Charlie, let's go to... So he grabbed him, put him in the car, and they took off to the hospital. And so he lost... See, both Mother's father and her husband lost fingers. He lost... I think these three. This one was long, and...
It was
crooked, and it didn't feel right to him. They tried to save it. But you know what he did eventually? He couldn't stand something that was...
It was malformed.
Yeah, malformed like that. He went down and says, here, Doc, cut it off. So he did, and he ended up like this. But and for a while he didn't pick up the knife again. But eventually he did, and he finished 4 horses. He had Larry's cut out. Never got it finished, but I always felt bad about that.
Whatever happened to that horse?
Do you have it, Larry?
I didn't have all the parts of it. I think it was stored.
Yeah.
And
something happened to it. Yeah. So anyway, I think I told you everything I've written here. The last sentence: all of his children inherited artistic talent, but of the 5, Bob had perhaps the greatest potential, which is true. This man was very good. He could sketch anything. You give him a pencil.